when young people are first placed with ISP, it might be their first experience of being looked after. They may have been in several foster placements. They might sort of change schools on many occasions. Added to that, they're away from their family, they're away from their friends. Which is really difficult. I mean, it's quite a traumatic experience, and given that children are expected to go into school and cope and function and conform to all the rules and fit in, so I think it's a huge challenge for them. If a young person is going into school midway through the term, friendship groups will already be there. So they've turned up, probably won't know anybody. They've got to try and fit in then. They've got to fit in with the other children and try and sort of form friendships. To help with the transition, I think teachers can identify a buddy, show them around the school, help them, give them a mentor, a go-to person that they can go to if they're feeling uneasy or they're finding things difficult, somebody they can just go to and talk it through with. I mean, it might be there's a sort of an allocated space where you can go. Some young people might want to go to a library, or they might want to go to the learning support unit. I think our children and young people are out of their comfort zone when they change schools, so we need to make the transition as smooth as possible for them. Being a looked after child, what do you say at school? Do you tell people? Do you not tell people? Some children like to tell other people, and some children don't. But I would always give a word of caution, to be very, very careful, because if you're giving other youngsters that information, then they might tell other children. Children can make unkind comments about being in care. So talk to them and ask them and say, who do you want to know? And get to know people first before you share the information. Another challenge is having to go to meetings, so being taken out of lessons, for example, to a PEP meeting. Obviously, children are curious and they want to know where you're going, where have you been? But hopefully, as I said before, by communication, we can iron them out and we can make it an enjoyable experience for our children and young people. Because after all, school should be a safe haven. It shouldn't be a place where you're worried and anxious. So where a child is coming home and saying that I'm being bullied or I'm being picked on, then as soon as possible we need to contact the school and address the issue. A lot of schools will have restorative justice meetings where they get the children together and get them to discuss what's happened, to find common ground and then find a resolution to the problem. Where a looked after child has been bullying another child, they might not be aware that they've been bullying them. It could be past behaviours, it could be they're just replicating what's happened in the family environment. It may be that it's a need to control, because obviously looked after children don't have a lot of control with what's going on in their life. So it's about having conversations with them and saying open questions like, what happened? Why do you think that happened? What could you do? How would you feel if somebody did that to you? And how can you put it right? You'll often find that they will say, well, I didn't mean that to happen, or I did that because of this. So it's about actually, as I say, doing some restorative work and actually breaking the cycle. Children might come home and say they don't like a teacher for whatever reason. Might remind them of somebody that's put them at risk in the past. It might just be a tone of voice which might remind them of something. Where necessary, we might need to talk to schools and say, could they change teacher? Could they have another teacher that's more empathetic? And that happens quite a lot. A child or a young person might have additional needs that are still undiagnosed if they've just come into care. So that might be something that provokes anxiety because they might be asked to do something that they feel unable to do. For instance, if a child or young person, for example, is dyslexic, they might be asked to stand up and read. Teacher might not be aware. They might be given work that's too difficult for them and isn't differentiated. Know your child, know what their challenges are. Make sure that you get the support you need from the school. If you think that your child requires an EHCP, then say to school, I think it would benefit my child or young person to have an EHCP, and get the ball rolling. We don't ever want to label children, but sometimes a label can be a good thing, especially if it's going to help children to cope at school and get the support they need. So yes, be aware and be involved in the process and be listened to. Where you've noticed something that other people might not have picked up on and you'd like an assessment to be made, it could be dyslexia, it could be autism, it could be ADHD. It's probably better to sort of have it ruled in or ruled out. And if it isn't the case, then you know, and if it is, you can get the support that you need. Sometimes the school's a daunting place and young people might not want to go. They might get up and say, I feel sick, I've got a headache, I don't want to go to school. As you get to know them, you'll know whether they really are unwell or not, or whether it just could be an issue with school. It could be a lesson they don't like, a teacher they don't like, problems with their peer groups, it could be bullying, it could be lots of things. Good school attendance is really important. I mean, some of our young people might have missed a lot of school before they came into care. They might have big gaps in their learning. But if you have a child or a young person that is reluctant to go to school, encourage them, find ways to help them. Speak to school and tell school that they're struggling. They might be able to have a meeting with a mentor in the morning, maybe every day, just to sort of a check-in, how are you today? If there's been an issue, ring school and say, look, there's been an issue today, or they've had contact with their family and that was really difficult, so they're struggling today. But it's just finding ways to support them and to iron out any problems which are preventing them from wanting to go to school. Where a child has exhibited some challenging behaviour, a school might wish to exclude. It could be because of a safeguarding issue. It might be that they've put themselves at risk, or put another child at risk, or put a teacher at risk. It can be lots and lots of different things, but we want to prevent exclusions where possible and support our young people and support our school to make sure they don't happen. And I think communication is key to it, because when you can identify a problem early on, then you can prevent exclusions.